Okay, I'll call to order our special city council meeting of August 29th. We have second item on the agenda, which is the only item on the agenda. Discussion and possible action to approve resolution 2019-11, declaring the structures located at 117 and 121 East Oklahoma, more particularly described at East Oklahoma Lots 3 and 4, Block 50, are in fact dilapidated and dangerous structures that constitute a grave and immediate danger to the health, safety, and welfare of the general public that require immediate and proper action summarily to abate said nuisance. Staff?
Might start out by reminding everybody the process. We had a public hearing on this property back on June 18th after we had provided proper notice to the property owner. So we're not having a second public hearing. This is a continuation from that hearing that was held on June 18th. Action was tabled until another meeting on July 16th. And then it was continued with a timeline that was agreed to with a group that had interest in saving the building. And then, of course, the storm on August 26th has changed the condition of the building. So that's a little bit of history of where we've been through. We put in your agenda packet a report from a structural engineer and his opinion. Also provided documentation, something that we wasn't aware of till recently, but there are a couple or 4 100-pound cylinders with argon and helium in the rubble of the building. And so whoever does the demolition or cleanup needs to be aware of that so that they don't get surprised by those cylinders when they drop a brick on them. And then lastly, there is a resolution for your consideration as your packet. We did make a couple of revisions from when we submitted in the original package. The first revision was there is a portion of the southwest wall of the former Farrell Flower Shop building that's taller than the adjacent triplet building. So we don't want that left standing, so that would have to come down as well. So we added that. And then we also added to give the council the full flexibility in addition to the city being able to demolish it if you adopt this resolution and the owner doesn't address it. We also added the options under the nuisance ordinance and state statute that the city may pursue other remedies inclusive of but not limited to prosecution on a complaint before the municipal court, prosecution on information or indictment before the another appropriate court and or civil action. Not that we wouldn't necessarily do any of that, but it gives the council the full range of options going forward. That's really the staff report. I think we provided you the basic information you need in your deliberation night to come to some decisions.
Okay. Anybody in the council have a question of staff? We have, as is our rule, we have 2 individuals that asked to speak on this issue. Ms. Guthrie? Would you come forward and identify yourself and address and 5 minutes and specific to the resolution?
Susan Guthrie Dunham, 1617 Westminster Place. Unfortunately, not Guthrie. I would be here, but my husband is not interested. I first want to thank the council for giving the building a chance because, as I said before, it's a National Historic Landmark District, and maintaining the streetscape integrity is paramount to maintaining the integrity of a landmark district. Unfortunately, the storm changed all plans, and I certainly would not want to try and contradict a structural engineer. maybe I'm here to mourn the loss of a significant part of the landmark district. But things happen, and this council gave it the time that it needed. Unfortunately, the contractor was not able to get in there and clear and stabilize as they had hoped to in a timely manner. The only other thing I'd like to beg your indulgence. Before I came to Guthrie, Oklahoma, I was an urban renewal director in the mid-'70s. And back then, urban renewal was about demolition. But I had a 5-member, of course, all-male, commission that saw that as not the way to go in a downtown revitalization. But the urban renewal was pretty much citywide in Van Buren. I was not Susan Van Buren at the time. So we built streets and water, sewer, tennis courts, but downtown was a core area of interest, and we chose to use historic preservation for revitalization of a downtown core district. Got it on the National Register of Historic Places, created the Historic District Commission to control what happened in that area, and I can tell you that Van Buren is alive and well, and probably wouldn't have not been alive and well if they had adopted the plan from, it was a firm called Carter and Burgess, you can Google it, Carter and Burgess Planning and Engineers out of Fort Worth, who did all kinds of downtown urban renewal, and it was all the cookie cutter. Demolish, awnings, close the street, put in water features. And so that 5-member commission recognized that that was wrong. And the same thing has happened in Guthrie. You have recognized that it's wrong to do harm. So one of my favorite statements about historic properties is do no harm. So, I thank you for doing no harm when the building had a chance, and I can't fault you for proceeding with what your own requirements are, which is to stick to codes when there is a hazard. The only other thing that I need to remind you is that the National Park Service, the Department of Interior, not only has guidelines for historic preservation, which you have to adhere to if you're going to take the tax credits, but they also have guidelines for infill in historic districts. And Leroy, I'm sorry to contradict your pocket park thoughts, but that would not meet the Department of Interior guidelines for infill.
1 more minute.
Well, I can tap dance. I'm done. I thank you for being concerned. I just urge you to consider in going forward what your responsibilities are. I mean, you are the stewards of a historic district that is phenomenal, and protect it totally. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. No, she can't. No, she can't.
No.
No. Thank you very much for those comments, Ms. Dunham. The only other person that has identified is Carol Herzl. Carol, would you identify yourself and address, please?
Carol Herzl, 3119 Cedar Ridge Court. I got totally confused when I got the packet today because the 2 people that were going to demolish it said they were going to throw the bricks inside the building and pour dirt on it. I can send you the engineer we've been talking to about you can't do that. If you do that, then the city does that at their own risk. Then later on, whoever owns the building can say, look what you did. You caused me a lot more money by throwing stuff in there. So maybe there are things that you need to consider if you're going to plan to handle the demolition by yourself. And also, like that Title 11 bill, it said that there was a 10-day waiting period before you had a public meeting. Wouldn't that be Tuesday, you notified the building owner that something needed to be done, so wouldn't it be 10 days after that? I got confused with that part too. So can you answer that?
What was your question again?
In the packet, it said Title 11, section so-and-so, said you have to advise the building owner, and he has 10 days to
This,
remedy.
this is, if I may provide some clarification, this is a continuation of the public hearing back in July where we did give the 10 days notice, and this is a continuation of that public hearing and the results of that
So
public
city
hearing.
attorney doesn't think that's a new thing because there was never anything attached to the building about demolition. And then I know that if you do things and you don't do it correctly, there are remedies for the people. So I mean, I hope you do things correctly.
And we did perfect our notice. We mailed notice, and it was attached to the building, but over time, of course, when you attach piece of paper or building, it can deteriorate.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Searle. I will entertain a motion then to move forward with resolution number 2019-11.
So moved.
We have a
Seconded.
motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I just have a question about some of the 48 hours that we do on that. I want to know where the liability is, and I guess that's a question for Billy.
The liability of the 48 hours doesn't do with us, with the property owner,
But after 48 hours,
still with the property owner.
still the property owners. I just want to know that. Want it stated clearly that we're not assuming any liability after 48 hours. Okay. I'm okay with it.
Okay, submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to move forward with resolution 2019-11. That is the only item on our agenda.